those issues. And some of the students who've been through here, Murli, Nishant, and there's a third person. Right?
Hello, everyone.
Oh, hey, is that Nishant over there?
Yes, Dr. Murthy.
Hey, how are you? Good to hear you. and
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. Where are you joining us from, Nishant?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia at the moment, so this is where I do.
I see. Wonderful, wonderful. What's the weather like there? What's the temperature there?
Well, it's wonderful at the moment. I think it's I'll say it in degrees Celsius, and then you guys can convert it into Fahrenheit. It's around 28 degrees Celsius. So.
Good. And you'll be there for a while, Nishant?
I've been here for almost a year now. Yes.
Oh, wow. We still miss you in the grad school. But we're happy you're on your way to an independent career, which is what we want you all to do. So happy to hear from you, and thank you for joining us, Nishant.
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Oh, yeah, you'll have a lot of things to tell us and the students here about different visa issues. So thank you. Stay with us. Sudarshan Hore? Sudarshan Hore, is she here? Is she here? I think it's she. Okay, we'll wait and see. And Murli Menon, Murli is joining us from Germany, but he'll join us at 4. And Murli got his PhD a year and a half ago or something like that. Also was very active in the GST, so we're happy to have him join us and talk about some of the issues they all went through. In addition, on campus here, we have people from the IPS, the International Programs Office. So,
Human resources.
Oh, you're in human resources.
Yes, ma'am.
So Madeline Mercado, Madeline Volker, who's been here with us for many years, and who helps the faculty navigate and staff navigate through the H1B visa process. So she'll talk about that. Stacy, you're in career services. Stacy Donnelly, who handles the CPT issues, the curricular practical training, and she will talk about that and address some issues. And then Michelle Borson. Michelle is in IPS as well, and she'll talk about OPT. So for many of you, all those, at least CPT and OPT are important. The H1B is a more permanent thing. Most of you will not be dealing with that here with us, but we thought we'll give you some information of the process so you're aware of what is happening when you're away in your jobs here or wherever else you are. So in addition, I have to introduce here Deb Charlesworth. Many of you may have met her. Probably most of you have met her. She is an assistant dean in the grad school and helps with all issues grad students. So any issue, I usually say, go see Deb Charlesworth, Dr. Charlesworth, and she'll address it. And in addition, we have Dr. Faith Morrison, who's an associate dean as well as professor of chemical engineering. And if you met her, and she's also a really helpful figure for all kinds of issues that you may face. Last, but I'm taking this time to acknowledge a GST involvement here. Jacob. Last name? Jacob Blazowski. Did I get that kind of correct? Jacob Blazowski, PhD student here in the math program, who is the academic chair and who's putting a lot of time and effort to get this series going. So we all owe him a great deal of gratitude for organizing the workshops, for getting the room, getting the food, chasing down the speakers, getting organized, etc. So thank you, Jacob. So having said that, I think there's food there, some food, and any food that's left over gets thrown. We don't want to throw any food, so please help yourself. And if there's still food when the session is over, please take it to your friends so we don't have to throw it down the garbage. So having said that, I think I will just stop, and the next person, Stacy, you go next, Stacy, and talk about CPT. Yep, we want this to get interactive. Yeah. We want this to get interactive session. So, no, Jacob, we don't want it, right? We want all the questions held to the end.
Just as a quick little note, we have a jam-packed session. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. The way we have it organized is we will talk about CPT. There will be a brief pause for a couple of questions. OPT, another brief pause, and then H1B. And after the H1B presentation, you'll have a chance for more questions. After that, we'll have an alumni panel discussion to share their experiences and their job searches, and for you to be able to ask any questions or advice from them. So without that further ado, we'll turn it over to Stacy and Michelle.
Hi, I'm Stacy, and I work in Career Services.
Hello, Michelle Borsom with IPS. I see a lot of familiar faces out there. Welcome.
So have any of you gone on co-op yet, or are you familiar with the CPT process? And
A lot of first years, first semesters here.
so when you go to career fair and you get that job offer, you'll come to Career Services and you'll fill out this form. You have to have a minimum GPA of 3.0. Your advisor, you have to meet with your advisor and you talk over what you need to do. Are we go through that? So you must be enrolled full-time, and so grad students can take between 1 to 6 credits to remain full-time.
You must,
Go ahead.
You have to be, if you're first starting off this fall, you must be enrolled for 2 full academic semesters, which is Michigan Tech policy, before you're eligible for any CPT.
And you have to be in good academic and conduct standing. And you can do a part-time job as well for 20 hours, and full-time, of course, is 40. You'll turn in your offer letter to us, and it has to pertain to your degree in that letter. And we have our start and end dates that you have to go in, and those are all on our website too. And everything is frequently asked questions there. You can work on CPT for 364 days. And then
The minute you go to 365 days, you are ineligible for OPT. So keep it under 365, okay?
I think that's, do you have any questions to ask about process or?
Is there a limit to how, within your grad career, how many times you can do this?
You can do, you can do a semester at a time, like do a semester and then come back to school, and then we issue the CPT a semester at a time. So you just can't go over the 364 days. Total. Yeah.
And they obviously have to have credit remaining, right?
Yeah.
So. Questions, comments, concerns?
So they get 1 credit in most departments, right?
Depending on how many credits they want, they have a minimum of, is it 2 credits for
2 credits for undergrad,
and 1
2
for-
credits for undergrad is your full-time status. 1 credit is your part-time status as a student.
So the way that Michigan Tech works, so that you guys are eligible to work, is that we don't have a lot of programs at Michigan Tech that basically give off internships, right, that are necessary. So the way that we kind of work this is so that you are eligible to get this experience that other students do is curricular practical training, but it is academically based, meaning you are enrolled in a class. You do have to, you get a pass or fail grade in this class, okay? And you must do good in it. You must turn in assignments, and you must do good at your work, and you know obviously the job that you're doing. Other than that, it is just basically making sure you have the credits remaining to be able to eligible to do CPT. A lot of students I know personally will do CPT and then they roll right into OPT. Okay, so that happens quite frequently.
Do the employers have to know all these rules in order for this to get forward?
They're pretty. I mean,
Most of them know.
Yeah, once they talk with the
Career services.
and the student, and they also have to sign a cooperative education agreement form, which is an agreement between you, career services or in Michigan Tech. And
So all the paperwork is between them and Michigan Tech, they don't have to deal with the
There's
US
nothing
government
governmental.
directly?
no,
in there.
nothing. No.
You do get a new I-20, right? That is done, it's gonna be done through Stacy. All CPT is shifting basically all over to career services versus IPS and career services. It'll be a one-house shop.
Which is, I think it's been a great transition to have when Dar was there with us, all working together. So it's a pretty smooth process.
It does take a couple weeks to get your authorization, so don't expect to drop off the papers and be like, oh, I need to start tomorrow, because
Yeah.
that won't happen. So it does take a few weeks, so patience is appreciated.
And those start and end dates that we have, I have a handout for those too if you want to take one after. But we're not really gonna budge on those dates. So I know a lot of times the students will argue, like, I need a week later, and if we do that for one, then we have to do it for everyone, and we have to stick with.
And the reason there are those dates, it's a curriculum, right? The curriculum base. So obviously, if you want to go into a class 2 weeks later, do you think you're going to succeed? Probably not, right? So hence why they always have to stick to those dates, because it is curriculum based. Make sense?
And you'll have assignments in Canvas, like your normal classes now. And then you'll meet with your supervisor, you'll do a final supervisor evaluation, they'll do it on you. You'll do a final co-op report, and basically just like weekly conversations with the instructor will be Mary Fran Jerosher.
Does anything change based on the number of credits that I decide to take? As in,
Yeah, like if you decide to take 3
one
instead
versus, yeah.
of, no,
one versus-
it's just
Okay.
of the cost of it.
So let's say you're in your last semester and you got like 1 credit left, and it happens to be the summer. Are you allowed to take that credit for the internship? And is it allowed?
Yeah, if you have 1 credit left, then that would be a conversation between you and your advisor too, to make sure that that would go towards your degree.
Okay.
If you have that 1 left.
What if your dates conflict with the ones given by the employer?
So normally, if you go back to the employer and let them know that it is a CPT, curricular practical training, and there are set dates that they must go by, most employers do adjust their dates for you.
They do, and I know Dara would call the employer too, or there'd be conversation back and forth and explaining the reasons why, and it usually works out.
Anything else before we move on to OPT?
Stacey, I have a question. You said for undergrad students, 2 credits was
Full-time.
Full-time. Most of these are grad students.
Right.
For grad students, what's the?
You can take between 1 to 6 credits.
Minimum is 1.
Minimum is 1,
So
and you're full-time.
it's something that the department allows, right? Whether
Right.
you can take 1, 2, or 3, or how many credits, etc. So
Yep.
that's something they need to figure out by talking to the program, how many credits
Yes.
they can take, right? Yeah, because mechanical it says 1.
Okay.
Electrical, I think some says 2.
And
It's
most,
3.
3.
Yeah.
and most that I've had come through, it's mostly 1 credits.
Right, mostly 1, but I knew that there was an
Another.
exception with electrical, so
Depends on the
really talk
department.
to your grad program director, your advisor, and make sure you're doing whatever it is that the department curricula has allowed you to do. So it's
You
really
could also,
depends on the
you could also do an internship on campus, but remotely, and you could do part-time, and it won't affect your CPT at all, correct? Like, you won't take any days off of that. If you want to do part-time work remotely with the company, you can work many days.
And
It's a loophole.
internship and co-ops comes under CPT.
Correct.
And
So
if,
basically CPT, all that is, it's just another name for internship.
and if I will get internship for 3 months, summer internship after first year,
Yep.
completing 2 semesters.
Good job.
And then after that, if I'll get co-op, then will I be able to get 2 credits, 1 and 1, or it will be only 1 credit?
So summer depends if you do full summer, right? Because there's track A, track B in the summer. So I'm not sure. Do you do 1 credit for each track,
Yep.
or is it?
Yep, you have to do 1 credit for each track.
So I'll be able to get 2 credits.
Any other questions?
I think that internship in summer, is it graded?
Is it graded?
Pass or fail?
Yeah, no, they
They
are
change it?
graded now. Yeah, it's not pass or fail, it is graded. So this is what the question that Dara and I just talked about that I don't understand is, so international students have one summer, you have your summers off, right? So they can go home,
Do whatever they
do
want.
whatever they
It's their
want,
break. Mhm.
but if they want to co-op,
They have to be enrolled.
they have to be enrolled,
Mhm.
okay?
Yep.
Even if it's your summer off. And then
Because
they can
it's
take
the
another,
loophole for
yeah.
mhm,
So much to
governmental.
learn.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, there's a lot. Anything else?
So I don't get it. The internship is same thing as CPT.
Same thing. It's just called CPT. It's an internship for international students, curricular practical training. I know, a lot to wrap your head around, right? Yes, you did.
So if I'm gonna go up, let's say in fall semester or something like that, and then I decide, and my company agrees, of course, that I need to extend this to spring.
Yeah.
Do I need to turn in all my paperwork again?
Yeah.
No,
So
no,
don't-
you don't have to turn in
don't do
any
what you
paperwork, we just need a new offer letter.
Okay.
Just, and even just, it can be an email from your supervisor or someone from the company just saying that they want to extend your offer until December or whenever.
So it's semester to semester.
Yeah.
And you will get a new I-20 each time you go semester to semester.
But watch the 365, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So it's about if any company is taking us for an internship or any co-op or all those things. So if I decide to stay here in my summer and work with some professor for any research work he or she is pursuing. So in that case, is there any paperwork I should do or is
Because
there
you're
any-
on campus.
Yeah.
So you, anytime you are remaining on Michigan on campus, you're allowed to do that. That is, allowed inside, the curriculum for Michigan Tech. The minute that you want to work off campus, it has to be authorized either through CPT or OPT. There is no other way around that. Okay.
And for that, if staying for any research project, in that case, is there any credit? that I
Not in the
should-
summer, as long as you have been enrolled for your 2 full semesters. If you choose to take credits in the summer, again, that's up to you and your department, so you're allowed, but you don't have to.
What did you say about summer internship and part-time job?
If you're on campus,
So you're allowed to be on campus, right, working remotely for a company part-time, okay? If you're doing this remotely part-time, technically those 365 days really don't apply because you can, it's part-time, right? So it's like a loophole,
What does part-time mean?
under 20 hours.
Under 20 hours. But we can't do part-time off campus.
Only if you're through CPT. You still have to get it registered as a CPT, even if it's remote.
Yeah, if I get internship in my last semester, like I get 9 credits remaining and I enroll for that, and after that I get an internship. So will that be counted in CPT or OPT?
So if you're going to be finished your last semester, right, and you're basically the next semester you're done, they can call it an internship, but you're going to move on to OPT. Okay? The minute that you no longer have any academics remaining, you must move on to OPT to legally stay. Okay? Or go back for another degree. Okay? Yeah.
How do you decide which is the last semester? It can be my next fall, it can be my next spring, it can be my next.
That's between you and your advisor. You're gonna have to work that out and see like when you're gonna be done.
so we've had a lot of students come that they should be graduating in the fall, but they don't want to miss this co-op experience, and then so they're pushing it off to spring.
And
So
if you
is there some
can,
paperwork or some official thing that this is going to be my last semester?
no, your I-20
There
is
is a
issued for a certain amount of time, right?
The whole course needs to be between that.
No. So your I-20 though has a date in which you technically should be getting finished with your program on it. It's on the first page, right? So for instance, if you're gonna be done, what I'm gonna do when you apply for OPT is shorten that I-20 so that you can move forward with OPT. I always advise everybody, if you're eligible for the CPT, take it. That is just more work, more money, more everything in your pocket, right? Then if you are eligible that last semester to do CPT and can roll into OPT, basically that's just more time you're working here, correct? So it's the smart way to do it if you can do a CPT.
Speaking of OPT, just to make sure that we deal with time constraints and to make sure that I know some of our presenters have some obligations, we're going to go ahead and move on to OPT actually as a perfect transition, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Can we ask Nishant if he wants to add anything to this discussion? Nishant?
I think he'll be joining again in a moment, or he might still be here.
Okay, so he's not on right now. Okay.
So optional practical training, basically OPT, what we call it. It's a benefit given to all F1 students who are completing a bachelor's or graduate degree in the United States, right? It's basically to provide an opportunity for the employment experience and field of study. There are 2 phases of OPT. There is the initial phase, which I handle both of these, okay? So 12-month and STEM extension are all done through me. So there's the first 12-month OPT. Then if you're in a STEM field, science, technology, engineering, or math, you are eligible for another 2 years of OPT. All OPT can be found on our IPS website. So before you email and be like, Michelle, how do I apply for OPT? Go to the website. It's all there, okay? If you email me like, Michelle, I'm literally gonna say, go to the website, okay? So take the time to read it because I will know if you read it. And I had one girl yesterday who emailed me 22 times. And I said, I will not answer any more of your questions because you're not reading it. So take the time to read it. You can apply for OPT up to 90 days before your academic ends. So if you're going to be graduating this December, right now is the time to start applying for OPT. So it's beginning to be my extreme busy time. So not only do I have hundreds of you guys applying for 12-month OPT, I've got hundreds of students from last year who are now eligible for STEM extension applying. So all OPT also is processed by a first come, first serve. I'm the only one who's processing, so patience is really appreciated. Standard OPT processing can take 3 to 4 months for approval. Right now, they are running over 90 days. Fall semester isn't so bad. It can be about 90 to 100. Last spring, we were seeing OPT taking over 5.5 months to be approved. Okay. A job offer is not required for 12-month OPT. It is required for STEM extension. You will remain an F1 student and F1 status while OPT is pending, and obviously once your OPT is approved. So while your OPT is pending, you know, I get a lot of like, oh, do I have to, what can I do? Can I stay here? Yeah, you're totally fine. You're still F1, okay? You are not eligible for OPT, like I told you earlier, if you complete 365 full-time days of CPT. Employment must be directly related to your field of study. Last fall, I received an OPT form, employment form, and it said McDonald's fry engineer. Think that got approved? Yeah. So you cannot begin working until your OPT start date and your EAD has arrived and your OPT is approved. So basically, I have a lot of questions where students are like, well, I picked a start date of February 10th, but my employer wants me to start January 15th. Can't happen. So as soon as I generate that I-20, that is your start date. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no changing it. Okay, so pick a good start date.
But what happens if you apply and it takes 5 months?
Normally, USCIS will adjust those dates. So if they pick a February 5th date and it didn't get approved till March 5th, 9 times out of 10, they will adjust that start date. And that's just how it goes. Sometimes they don't.
1 time out of 10, they leave it where it was, and you just lose a few days.
They lose some time. And if they apply after like the 90 days and you are in what's called your 60-day grace period, you automatically are losing part of your OPT because you should finish your 12 months within that 14-month time slot of 12-month OPT. So don't apply late. The best thing you can do is apply now. But you
can only apply within 90 days of ending. So you apply 3 months ahead. If it takes more than 3 months, you have a 1 in 9 chance of losing some months.
Yeah. So sometimes it's like, honestly, I swear to God, it's like the governmental worker. So some of them will adjust those cards and automatically do it, and sometimes they just don't. And there's nothing that can be done. We can call, I can call, it doesn't do any good. You're better off to just take it and go and start your job.
What if I've told my employer that this is the start date according to my OPT application? And
you have to talk to your employer and tell them that your OPT has not been approved and you need to push back your start date. Can that affect your job? It can. Yeah. So at that point, what I always do is I tell you guys, when you hit that 90-day processing, call if you want. Don't call more than once, because every time you call, they open up a case, right? Last year I had a student who called literally
22
12
times.
12 times. Guess how long it took him for him to get his OPT? It was almost 6 months. So do I think that they literally take their packet and put it at the bottom because they're getting annoyed? I really sometimes do. So I really do. So don't do that. So listen to me or listen to my student worker when you come for an OPT review. We cover so much stuff. Listen to it because we're telling you the best possible advice because I have seen every scenario. So do what I'm telling you to do. Okay?
If I'm waiting for my EAD card and I've already graduated, so I won't be eligible to actually work in the industry because I don't have my EAD card, and I won't be able to work any part-time jobs. So I'm just.
So the minute your program academic date ends, so if you are done, let's say December 15th, right? You're done December 15th and you pick a start date of February 15th, those 2 months you can't do anything. There is a little exception if you're like a PhD student and you are working on like your research, different things like that, you're eligible to keep doing that. But as far as physically getting paid, you cannot do that.
So adding to that, does that 2 months count to your OPT 12 months or not?
So what was that?
From December 15 to let's say February 15. No.
So you get 90 days, right, of unemployment as well. So if you have a start date of let's say February 15th and your end date of your academics is December 15th, your unemployment does not start until February 15th if you do not have an employer listed with the government. Okay, so from February 15th, right, that date starts 90 days of unemployment where you can find a job. Okay, it's confusing, I know.
What exactly is happening in those 3 to 4 months of OPT processing?
Normally you guys are still in school, right? Or you're on CPT and you're working. So it takes the government 3 to 4 months for that to be approved. There's thousands. Picture two, there's 2 places where these OPT packets go, right? Lincoln, Nebraska and Potomac, Arizona, and every school in America has international students applying. Hence why it takes this long.
And also, can't we apply to OPT before 90 days?
No, you cannot. Legally, you cannot. It's
Can
not my
we
rule, it's
submit our
government.
documentation to you?
What was that?
Can we submit
You
a
cannot. I won't even take it before the 90 days because I have hundreds and hundreds of you guys.
What are those dates
So-
for our fall and spring semester?
So it depends because some of their I-20s end at different times.
Oh.
So some might be December 15th,
So it's 90 days from the date on your
your
I-20.
I-20. And everything you need to know on how and when to apply can be found on the website. Because I make you take a campus course so that I know you read it. And then you have to submit those grades to me. And if you don't do good on those grades, then I make you take it again. So yeah, I'm a stickler. So it's very, very important that you read it. Okay? Yeah?
There's a 12-month one and then there's the STEM extension for 24 months.
Yep.
So can you do 12 months and then just extend after that for another 12 months? Or
That's
do you
it.
have to stay 2 years from the
It's
start?
2 years, but you don't have to stay the full 2 years if you don't want to.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, if
Can
you
finish
decide.
1 year and then add 12 months?
So what you do, you apply, you do your 12-month, right? And then you apply for your STEM extension. They automatically, once approved, give you 2 full years. If you choose not to use both years, that's totally up to you. Okay.
We need an employer for the STEM extension.
You
right?
do need an employer. STEM extension is a little bit different. You must have a paid employer,
Yep.
right? You can volunteer employment on your 12-month OPT. It must be within your field of study, okay?
Okay.
But you cannot do that on STEM extension. You must have a paid employer. They must be e-verified and they must fill out the I-983 training plan. It is a little bit more work. The government tried to make it a little bit more difficult. It's really not hard, okay?
But what if I decide to change my employer, as in I want to switch jobs between when my extension period is
When
over?
it's pending, we do not advise you do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once I get my extension, I can do that?
You can.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So right now we are F1 students and we are allowed to travel outside the USA.
Mm-hmm.
After we apply for OPT and we got the card, but we didn't get the job yet, are we allowed to leave the USA or not?
So you can, it's always going to be a risk, right? So anytime you leave the country, obviously is a risk. But what I advise is always never traveling while any OPT is pending. I'm not the travel police. I'm not going to be at every airport stopping you, right? But if you choose to travel even after it's approved and you don't have a job, you are allowed to re-enter with that EAD card and that I-20. Could they detain you? Absolutely, but they could detain anybody. Okay?
So when my OPT or even the STEM extension is going on, you said I would be on my F1 student visa.
Correct.
Is that right?
You're always on F1 until you transfer over to H1B or green card.
Okay. As a student right now, if every time I leave country, I have to go to I have to come to IPS to get my I-20 signed.
You do not have to do that. Though I'd love to see every single one of you every time. It's not necessary. So all you have to do is email me at opt@mtu.edu. You're going to notice every single I-20 that I generate for you that's for OPT, even if you change employers, I'm automatically giving you a travel signature. Even that first initial OPT, though I tell you not to travel, like I said, I'm not the travel police, you're still going to get a signature. Those signatures are valid for 6 months. If you notice that they're going to be expiring, all you have to do is email me at opt@mtu.edu, and I'm going to get you a new one. I'm going to scan it, upload it, and mail out that original. Okay? Don't wait until 2 days before you travel, because there's like 1,300 of you that I'm working with. Okay?
Yeah, I want to ask you, mentioned that for STEM, it's 24-month extension.
Right.
But was it in the case of someone with a STEM background, but running a social science program or kind of program that is interdisciplinary? Would you classify that as STEM or?
So there's a list of STEM, like, you know, your code that are eligible. So I would suggest looking up STEM codes and seeing if your code that's on your I-20 is eligible. If it's not, where are you in your program?
Yeah, my background is in engineering, bachelor and master's, and then PhD in social science department on energy and environmental management.
Should be fine.
Which is basically on renewable energy technology and policies for energy companies. So if you look at that, there is a collapse with the STEM, you know, to say.
But you did your master's in engineering?
Yeah.
Okay, so for some reason, let's just throw this out there. If you did not qualify for the STEM extension under your PhD degree, there's this little thing you can do. You can apply for 12-month OPT on your PhD degree, right? But then turn around and apply for your STEM extension on your master's, as long as you have not used it. So either way, you'll be fine. Okay?
STEM extension is for how many months?
24.
Do you have to have a internship offer or job offer to apply for first OPT?
Nope.
So you can
No
apply
job
just
offer for
90
12
days
months.
before, irrespective of anything.
Yep. We just send everything in, and there is a fee of $410.
So
Doesn't come to me.
Held that information back.
What's your share on that?
Huh?
What's your share on that?
I wish I had any share. I'd have the best shoe collection ever. No share. It's written right to U.S. Department of Homeland Security.
Okay. Another question, China.
Oh, you know all this.
No. So it was on a discussion. So people who switched over from their masters to their PhD, but have utilized CPT during their masters. Now they don't necessarily have a master's degree because they've switched over to PhD. How does that work? Do we
So
still
now
have
you're
CPT?
going to have to. So can you still do CPT on your PhD? Is that what your question is? Yeah, as long as your credits vary, you can.
364 days of it.
I'm hiring her to IPS. Yeah, so and then basically what you do is then when you're done, you can move on to OPT for the PhD. Right. Yeah, you're welcome, $5.
At least it's not 4,000.
I charge
400.
lots of fees, hey? You got a big tab in my office. Yeah, any other questions?
So you said that many a time people generally continue OPT just after they are done with their CPT. So why would many people do like that?
So basically, they don't need to come back to tech, right? So if they're in their last semester and they have credits left, why not work, right? That's money. You're making a lot of money. So a lot of people will work, finish up, and then apply for OPT, and it's all done through email. So I do everything through email.
Do they offer them to continue in the same job position?
Lots of them do.
Yeah, CPT, OPT.
Really just a benefit because a lot of these employers will hire you.
They just saved a credit.
They saved, and
One
they
credit
gave
as that final
themselves like 5 more months of working in the United States.
A follow-up question with what Hugo already asked, that if someone was a master student, then converted to a PhD, in that case, probably you already had one CPT option or something like that. But for example, in my case, I was a bachelor student and I'm a direct PhD student here, and then I'm not going to get my master's. I mean, I'll either get my PhD directly or I won't get anything.
Right.
So in that case, what I remember from a previous session that for each degree you can apply once.
For OPT.
For OPT, yes. So in that case, how does that work? Like if I'm directly going for the PhD and in between I don't have a master's, and then I cannot apply for the master's or for master's related OPT or CPT. So in that case, is it like only for the PhD from applying? Then
correct.
Then how does
Right. So if you technically never got a master's, right, and you just went on to PhD, you didn't finish the master's. You could have finished your master's, went on to OPT, the 12-month and the 24-month. But you didn't do that, so you moved right on to your PhD. So what that means is when you finish your PhD is when you're going to be eligible for the 12-month OPT and then the 24-month STEM extension at that level. Make sense?
Yeah.
We're gonna stop now because we have so much on the agenda. But thank you so much.
Yes, no
and Jacob's
problem.
gonna introduce the next item.
So next up we have Madeline from Human Resources to give a nice quick overview with the H1B process. So feel free to take as much time as you
And our goal at IPS is always to get you to H1B. And we have a lot of students who get it.
So thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and also to the alum that are listening to us. I also wanted to recognize Pani Hazabeh, who will be also providing her experiences transitioning from an F1 status OPT into an H1B. She's one of the students that had transitioned into academia. And with that, I did wanted to explain that my presentation today is with the lens of academia, of higher education, a career with higher education, not a career with industry. So what I will share with you is very basic regarding what is the H1B. However, if there are any questions regarding industry, H1B with industries, cap exempt, with cap, I will not be able to answer those. Okay. So a few announcements. In case of an emergency, please don't panic. Do grab your cell phones so you can call your families and calmly exit the building using the stairs. So we should probably meet across the street in the Alumni House parking lot. And we will not re-enter the offices until we're told to do so by the police or firefighters. And again, this presentation is for informational purpose only. I am not an academic immigration attorney. We have an immigration attorney that the university has on retainer. I do mostly the work of a paralegal out of our office based in Human Resources. So a little bit about me, and I feel bad because my colleagues, I was like, oh no, anyway, so I will tell you about me. I have served Michigan Tech for over 25 years. In a different areas. I started my home base with the student development complex, and I still have feelings when I walk into that building, nostalgia. And my last 5 years have been with Human Resources. Love to work with in the area of student affairs. I love being here because we all are here because of you. We are here to serve you. So students are very important to us. In my immigration experience, we work with from the H1B visa all the way to the green card for our faculty. And also, I'm the founding advisor of the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers at Michigan Tech. I was hoping to see some SHIP members here. Anyway, and I directed the Michigan College University Partnership Program, which is a program to empower underrepresented students to further their education beyond an associate degree. And I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I moved to the Upper Peninsula directly from there. So I graduated on a Friday, I got married on Saturday, and I packed on Sunday, and I moved on Monday. So it was, I told my mom I'll never get married until I graduate from college. So she said, well, you sure did that quickly. So I'm happily married. This is home. I love the UP. It's fresh. very different from living in a city. That's all I can say, and some of you can relate to that. And I'm a proud mom of a Copper King and future housekeeper.
Well, you're a mom of a Copper King too, right?
Yes,
There you go.
So today my goal is to give you a quick definition of what is the H1B specialty occupation visa. I'll go through the application process for you and then as for the employer lens. I'm going to spend time in case scenarios because that's how I learn best. And there are things within those case scenarios that are not going to be reviewed on my presentation, but we will touch on those during the case scenarios. And again, you'll hear from Hani today, who is an alum from Michigan Tech. So during my presentation, I'm going to talk about some abbreviations will be the Department of Labor, the Labor Certification Application, USCIS. If you think about Homeland Security as the mothership, and under that mothership, then you have USCIS, and then you have ICE, and then other offices. And then you will also hear from a little bit of OPT. I did wanted to convey this along with my colleagues. The CPT, that curriculum, practicum training, optional practical training, those are words that did not come from us. Those came from Homeland Security. So we're bound by that. And then if I could add to what which I was really happy to see, is if I can tell you something that you can never just walk away with this from today's presentation, keep all of your I-20s. Do not throw anyone away. You have a passport that is expiring, hang on to it. Because if your goal or your dream is to become part of a permanent resident in the US, those are all going to be needed. Okay? So hang on to all the I-20s. So the H1B visas are for temporary workers that are engaged in a specialty occupation. Specialty occupations are folks that are highly specialized in a knowledge. So when being a graduate student, you're working towards that, to have that specialized knowledge in a field. Also, it's for folks that have attained a bachelor's or higher degree or an equivalent experience. However, again, for my lens, I'm coming from higher ed. I don't go by the equivalent experience when we're requesting an H1B visa. We go by your highest degree earned, which is a PhD. Or if it's requested by the employer, it's a desirable education, a master's degree or higher. And as Michelle had explained, an example of this is that you want to make sure that the specific specialty for the occupation also matches your degree. So if you have a job as an assistant professor in the chemical engineering department, we want to make sure that you have a PhD in what? Chemical engineering. And if you have a PhD in, I'm just trying to say mechanical engineering, and you want to be a soccer, the coach for the soccer team, that's not going to work for an H1B. So I'm glad to see that from the CPT, the OPT level, just think about that as stepping stones. I'm glad to see that we have to match the degree with the occupation, because that's, for the rest of your immigration history, that's all we are going to make sure that we're matching at that. H1B visas are valid for 3 years, and they can be extended for an additional 3-year period for a total of 6. Now, beyond 6 years, they can be extended as well. And the 3-year extension is if you have an I-140 that has been approved. Okay, so I'm a visual learner. I'll do this real quick. And sorry for the folks, the ones listening are alone. So think about 3 pillars, okay? Well, we'll include here. Here's your CPT. Here's your OPT. Here's your H1B. Here's your I-140. and here's your green card, okay? Having this part approved, then we can extend your H1B beyond the 6 years with this approved, okay? Now, the I-140 is not a visa. The I-140 allows you to change your status to become a permanent resident. And for Indian and Chinese, it gives you a priority date when you can apply for the green card. Because there's so many, we're not able to apply for a green card immediately. There's not enough visas. So Homeland Security Department will give you a date when you're eligible to apply for your green card. And I'll stop there. Otherwise, we'll go into another area. So the H1Bs can take classes, which are part of the incidental employment. We had an employee that finished and completed his MBA, Master's in Business Administration, while working on his H1B. H1Bs can be for full-time or part-time employment. You can also have an additional H1B, so 2 H1B visas with different employers. Where I have seen that is a student that started working in a PhD here at Michigan Tech and is staying working with that professor while taking a job with another employer. So you can have 2 H1B visas. The government fees, I didn't feel that this was important to include it. However, the most important part about this is that nobody should be asking you to pay for filing fees. It's illegal. Why? Because an H-1B is an employment-based visa. Therefore, the employer has to pay for that fee. So that's illegal if you're being asked to pay for it, okay? That's the only reason why I wanted to leave that there. And if you're, anybody on J visas, any scholars? Okay, good. All right, well, if you have a friend that is J visa, they either have to complete the 2-year residency or go back to their home country for 2 years, or they have to obtain a waiver. When either of those happen, then we can apply for an H-1B visa. So here is a quick glance at the process. Sorry if I'm going too fast, but I'm willing to stay after 5 to answer questions. So the steps for new hires: find a job with an employer that will sponsor you on an H-1B visa. Career fair is coming. We'll talk a little bit more about this. Confirm that the job offer and compensation, and obtain the offer letter. Especially if after you graduate, you want to go home to celebrate, you're coming back on your H-1B, you want to show that offer letter along with your approved H-1B visa to the consulate so you can enter back into the U.S. And then step 3, as soon as we give you a checklist of things that we're going to need or the employer is going to need to apply for the visa, send them as soon as you can. So when we have the career fair coming up, it is illegal for a company or employer to ask you if you can legally work in the United States. They cannot ask you that until you go through the entire process of the interview. Okay? And when you sign, then when they're ready to sign the offer letter, then that's when they can ask you, when you sign it, can you work here? What employment eligibility document do you have in order to work here? So at the career fair, I'll come back. At the career fair, a question that you may ask is, do you sponsor employees on work visas? There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, but ask the question. Many years back, working on the student affairs side of things, I had a student that was in an F1. The student went to career fair, company invited for interview, went to the interview, company invited for a breakfast, company invited for a company tour, company sent the offer letter, company took the offer back. The student didn't have work eligibility, and they did not sponsor workers. So I think asking, hey, do you sponsor? then you're clear moving forward, they're clear moving forward. Okay. For us as employers, here's that we need to submit a labor certification application with the Department of Labor. That's a must, that has to be included with the petition. Then we complete and submit the petition, and then we get the approval, and we give the approval to the employee. This is how the approval looks like. You will have the validity dates on your visa. You will also have an I-94 that will be included. If you were outside the US and you were being sponsored, this will not be included in the approval. But that's another story. Questions so far? There were two hands, yes.
Okay. There have been multiple instances where the employers have directly asked me this question: are you eligible to work in this sector? Multiple instances. So this is really the first time I'm hearing that this is illegal.
You can explain to them that you have an F1 visa that allows you to work in the US, and that you will request also after you graduate, you'll be eligible to work for 1 year.
Okay.
Because you'll request OPT.
Yes. Even if you go online and try to apply for different positions, you get very frequently get asked two specific questions. Do you have work authorization to work right now? Would you require sponsorship in the future? So
you would say yes and yes.
Yeah, of course, that's what I do. But I didn't know that the companies are not allowed to say that.
Well, here's a fine line on that, and because I don't work with the employment side of things, I know that we ask that question. I think it helps the departments to know if the employee has to be sponsored, especially these days when it's taking over 5 months for approvals and you have an immediate need for somebody in a position. That could be a reason for disqualification because they have an immediate need for you to start on the job. So it is, at that point, it is okay to still ask because they're trying to make plans, right, for that hiring stage. Okay, how soon can we get him here? What do we have to do? Yeah,
it was pretty much the same thing.
Yes.
So we need sponsorship for H1 visa. That means that person can work 1 + 2 years in the OPT without requesting the sponsorship.
Correct. Correct. And even once you have the OPT, if you want to transition right away to the H1B visa, you can talk to the employer and say, hey, can I talk to you? Can we start the conversation so that I can be sponsored on an H1B visa? Thoughts, questions?
How long does it take for the process? As in, I am, let's say I get my OPT, let's say I get my extension. So how long before my extension ends should I apply for my H1B?
Typically, we want to start 6 months before your OPT expires. Not everybody is same. Some companies wait because technically you can still you continue to work after the request for the H1B visa has been submitted.
Oh, really?
We don't work like that here.
So even after the, let's say you have the STEM OPT extension, and even after 2 years you can technically work when you have already applied for H1B visa and it is not approved yet.
They start from the beginning.
Okay, so like, let's say you have STEM OPT extension for 2 years and it's completed. And you have applied to H1B visa and it's not approved yet. So can you still technically work after the OPT extension?
There's something called a cap gap, and the cap gap is for while you're waiting for the approval of the H1B visa. They allow you for so many days of work and employment eligibility. So it is okay.
Are there any fees associated with the H1B process that we would have to cover ourselves?
I will talk about that in one of my scenarios, but it's optional, and I will talk about it in one of them. So I don't expect you to have the answers, okay? But if you do, I wish I had chocolate with me because I love chocolate. So a new Michigan Tech hire is currently on optional practical training at a different institution and the start date of employment is August 13th, 2018. Now, look at this with the lens that this is an assistant professor or a lecturer that is coming to Michigan Tech, because these are scenarios based on our experiences here. Is this new employee eligible to start working with the OPT, or should the new employee be on an H1B visa to start the new duties? Yeah, I'm humming the Jeopardy song in my head. So the answer is yes. The employee may start employment with the OPT, okay? Because the OPT is not employer-based. So you can start working with your OPT, okay? And again, we talked about the H1B visa should begin the day after that OPT has expired. So if it expires on 9/12, your H1B starts on 9/13. There shouldn't be a gap, okay? A Michigan Tech employee on an H1B visa transitioning to a different employer. They're leaving us, all of them. From the time the employee finishes the job at Michigan Tech to the time that he or she starts a new job, that's called non-productive time, okay? So who pays for this time? And how many days can this employee be off before he or she starts working with the new employer? This is the same situation as when you're transitioning and you're waiting for your OPT to be approved. Same situation. That non-productive time, nobody pays for that. Hopefully you save some money and you can take a road trip vacation and camp around, but that nobody pays for that time, and you have 60 days to start working with the new employer on the new visa, okay? I'm ready to go. So an employee has an H1B visa with an end date of May 15th, 2018. So how many days does the employee have to be legally in the country after the end date of this H1B visa?
Depends if they got an extension or not.
So if there was an extension, good job. If there was an extension, this employee continues actually on the employment eligibility for 120 days while they wait for that approval. But technically, Homeland Security is giving us these days 60 days. 5 years ago, when I started in this role, you had 24 hours to leave the country.
What?
24 hours. Crazy. And I did have one employee that had to do that. So now we have 60 days. Okay. A current employee on an H1B visa has to renew the driver's license in August. This is where I'm going to answer the question that you had. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I'll answer it. So the current H1B visa expires on August 15th, 2018. And we have requested an extension for the H1B. However, it will take up to 6 months. We've seen lately more than this to receive an approval. That's called regular processing. Should the employee pay a fee of $1,225 in order to receive a faster approval on the H1B, so he or she can renew the driver's license?
I have a question on that scenario.
Yes.
How fast would that process be if I pay $1,225?
Thank you. That's one of the fees that you were asking. What other fees? So Homeland Security has a service called Premium Processing Services. So if you want a faster decision on the case, you can ask the employer, hey, can I pay the fee for Premium Processing Services? Who's going to say no? No, I don't want you to pay $1,255. However, what we're asking Homeland Security is that within 15 business days, they say yes, no, or they request more evidence. It's not a guaranteed yes, and I'm always very clear because there are so many scholars that come to my office and say, yeah, I want a faster approval on this. It's not going to be an approval. It will be maybe an approval, but it might be a no, or it might be, hey, we need more evidence on this so we can finalize the decision. So this is one of those fees that it's optional. However, if the company or employer have a start date and they need you there by that start date, they might be willing to pay the fee. The cases where I should say, human resources, where we recommend the premium processing is if you're outside the US and you're waiting for that approval to come in. Why? Because you have to go to a US consulate to get your visa stamped and your passport. And they'll surrender, you have to surrender your passport so they can stamp the visa. And then you have the interview. And we're going to make sure that our employee can take care of those steps quickly, and they'll be ready to enter the country 10 days before the start of the H1B visa. Any questions regarding this last one?
We're a little running behind.
Yep, and I think I'm done actually. Yeah. This was the last one. So.
We'd like to give our panelists a chance to tell you about what it's like after all these processes. So, all right, thank you very much. Jacob.
So to the panelists, if you are listening, as Murray, I believe you are welcome to join us at
Yes. We have honey here too.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello, Murray?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Hello, welcome to the Professional Development Workshop. Could you please give a quick intro to yourself and then feel free to share kind of an overview of your employment gaining process?
Sure. Thanks. First of all, I'd like to thank you for having me here in this session. It's definitely a great privilege to be still a part of GST and do my part to, helping graduate students. And it was nice to hear the voice of some recognizable people. It's always a pleasure. So my name is Murali Krishnan Menon, and I completed a master's and a PhD program in the mechanical engineering department at Michigan Tech. And I graduated in 2017, or I should say I finished my all my studies in 2017. And right now, I'm working with a firm called Engineering Software Steyr in a city called Steyr in Austria. And we are a simulation software development firm which develops some specific CA3 based softwares for automotive based industries. As far as job search is concerned, I would like to make this a more interactive session, obviously, and would like to know what students would like to know from me. I do have a few points noted, but I'll probably, like, if there are some questions at first, then it will be easier to continue the discussion. But I guess there are other panelists also who have joined, so let them introduce themselves.
Yes, actually, on that note, I'm going to go ahead and invite
Hani.
Okay, sorry, I was saying that wrong.
So I have a few things to share with you, and I need to leave in 10 minutes because I have a meeting. So a couple of things that I went through myself and I want to share with you is that one of the things that I think Madeline said, that make sure that the employee will hire and support H1B visa. I got a job offer from Intel on a project, and that project manager didn't know that HR doesn't support H1B visa for that specific project that year. So I got my hopes up and I ended up not getting it. So that's one. Another thing that I want to share with you is that make sure you save for OPT for $100. When I was trying to do it, I was like, all right, I'm going to wait 2 weeks till I get paid and pay for $400 of the OPT. My OPT wasn't here till 1 week into my employment. And I'm a lecturer here, so they had to send someone else in my classes. Because there is no joke. If you don't have that card, they won't let you work. So make sure you have like 4 months, and it took like 3 months and a half for me. So I was counting on 3 months and I sent it late. So if you don't, and my friend was like, oh, I lend you $400. I was like, no, I'll wait. And that was a mistake. So just make sure you give yourself enough time to get the OPT. Going from OPT to H1B, Michigan Tech paid that premium fee for me because they saw how much like my boss was like, you went through so much when you were doing the OPT, so I'll pay the premium process for the H1B. And it came in, I think, Madeline, 3 days, right? So just make sure you give yourself like an extra time for that OPT, because that was really stressful. Like, and another thing I think that Michelle said, that read through that carefully. I wrote my birthday, still I think it's wrong in the OPT forms. So in my country, in Iran, we write day, month, year. And I don't know how it is. So that's how my passport is in English. So it's not month, day, year. And I wrote it, copied my passport, and it was wrong. So things like that, watch for that, and make sure you ask if they accept H1B and give yourself time. But if you have someone like Madeline in the company that you work, which I'm sure companies have someone, like make sure you check everything with them, then you should be good. And that was my part of, I thought you can use that experience.
Since Pani, is there any quick questions for Pani?
Yeah, if there's any questions. And my office is 412 ERC. If you ever had questions, you can always come to me.
So are you still working with Intel, or you?
No, I work here at Michigan Tech. That was an internship. They didn't give it to me because this the project manager didn't know that the HR, like they're both from same company, but they're not in close contact. So HR was like, no, this project is sensitive, so don't hire this Iranian person. But I already had offer letter, but they took it back. And this was 2 years ago. So make sure not from the project manager, from HR, you hear that they accept H1B. Or even like OPT or CPT, they said no, because you're foreign, any kind of visa or OPT, CPT, we don't accept you. So check that.
And what was the salary they were offering you?
For the internship, it was
full-time position.
No, this was the internship, so it would have come out as $4,000 a month, something like that.
Thank you.
But Intel does accept internationals. That was a specific project that the HR was like, no, just apply for Intel. But that was like a bad luck. But it's okay to ask HR if
They didn't give an option to shift to a different project, maybe, or something like that.
that was the interview that they had, that the specific manager wanted. It was a circuit design, which I'm still in contact with him. So if I become an American citizen, maybe I can work there one day. Now I work for Michigan Tech, which that OPT thing that I told you about, it took longer. It was 1 week into the semester, fall semester, and I didn't have the EAD card. So my boss, actually, he was really nice about it. He was like, we'll send someone to cover your classes for, we didn't know how long, but in a week to the semester it came. And actually, Darnisha has a picture of me kissing that card because I was so excited that it came in. So just make sure you have enough time. I was dumb to be like, no, $400, I'll wait 3 weeks or 2 weeks. Never do that. All right, thank you guys. You can find me at 412. Thanks, Madeline. Good luck.
Thank you.
So also, just to say, so Merle, we have you on the big screen now, and hopefully you can see some of the room for us here. So
Yes.
everybody feel free to wave to Merle. You're on camera. So.
It's better to see you guys than it was a bit odd for me to see myself on that big screen. I hope it's So some of the do we still have other panelists who are joining?
We did have Nishant, who has left us, and then is Sudarshana with us. There's somebody who joined with a phone, but I don't have a name.
Okay.
Right. So I think it's me. This is Nishant, and I think it's me who has joined through the phone.
Okay, that's okay. Welcome back, Nishant. Sorry, you had your name earlier and then your name disappeared. So.
Oh, okay.
So would you, Murli had a chance to introduce himself. Would you be willing to quickly introduce yourself to our attendees here? And then I will leave it up to discussion and whatever experiences you would like to share or advice you'd like to pass on.
Sure. So myself, Nishant Singh, I graduated from Michigan Tech with my master's in mechanical engineering in the spring of 2017, which was last year. Proud Husky, a proud alumnus, working for an oil and gas engineering design company called Linde Engineering North America at one of their centers in Atlanta, Georgia, as an engineering manager. We basically design and build hydrogen plants and gas purification plants. At present, I'm on my 24-month STEM extension OPT, and as we go through this discussion, we'll talk a little bit about my experiences during my job search almost about a year ago. So that's all from my side for now. I mean, should we go ahead and...
Well, were there any other talking points for Murli? Did you have anything else that you wanted to present formally at all? Or are we okay to just go with opening up for questions?
No, sure. I'd like to mention a few things, and I'm sure maybe, I mean, I'm not sure, but I feel maybe Nishant will add on to some of that once I've finished like giving some of the ideas. There are basically a few points that every international student should take care of. One is sticking to the timeline is extremely important, and there are enough resources for you to understand what are the exact timelines. And don't take this lightly when you think of about to graduate. There's a lot of excitement at the time of graduation. It's very easy to forget what the next stage is and forget about the timeline for it. So make sure you plan your graduation at least a year before. And this is irrespective of being a master's student or a PhD student. I would say if you want to find a job that really suits you and something that you want to take further for a long time, you should give yourself 1 year time. And you don't always have to pick your first job. So when you're searching for a year before your graduation, you have enough time to get several job offers and then pick what you want, not what the employer wants. And the second thing is there are so many resources in the university. I would say the most reliable resources are in the university than on the websites. Resources like GST, IPS, and career services are key. And these are resources I've used in my job search a lot. And I would further go into each of these and say, like, when I say GST, if you become part of GST, and it doesn't have to be a representative, even if you just be a volunteer and you interact with everyone, just interacting with a wide range of people opens up your confidence a lot. And this is extremely important, not just for interviews, but for the whole process of job search. IPS, obviously, as international students, this is our best resource for anything. And Michelle is amazing at how she is able to achieve so many things with the given 24-hour time in a day. So she she has a lot of things to do. So IPS, I mean, not just Michelle, but IPS generally has a lot of things to do. And the sooner you approach them, the smoother the process will be for both parties. And career services, it's a great resource for when you think of it as the career fair. But I would say if you use that resource in off-peak hours or off-peak non-career fair times, this will be more beneficial for you as an individual. And this is something that helped me when I was looking for my job search as well. So make sure you try to get a one-on-one appointment with any of them, and ask your questions and get some suggestions from them. This will help. And rest of some of the points that I've noted down here might be specifically for PhD students. So this we can discuss, at a later point of this panel discussion also. I'll try to bring up these points as we go.
Thank you. With that, you guys are on camera, so if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. I can help with directing question flow. It can be directed towards Murli, towards Nishant, or specifically on the panel, or anyone on the panel, as well as I'm sure we could include H1B questions here as well, whatever you guys are interested in for conversation flow.
So Murli mentioned that you should start looking for jobs like 1 year before, but the posting that the companies have, or if we go on to the career fair with the intent of having a permanent job, so they're looking for students who should start in the spring. Like we are in fall, the students should start in spring or as soon as possible. So how do we convince them to have an offer while we are graduating in the spring in May 2019?
So when I mentioned about starting 1 year ahead, it doesn't necessarily mean applying to one specific job. This could mean various things. It could be finding an internship or finding a co-op. So let's say now you're in fall 2018 and you want to graduate in fall 2019. Okay, so let's say you start looking for jobs, both full-time and co-ops, all like in this semester, and then you start applying, and maybe you'll get an internship in summer, and that same company might want to hire you at the end of fall 2019. So then this is an easier process for you. But if you go with the focus of only finding an internship and then figuring out if you want to or don't want to, it's possible, but I feel this is an easier way out. So this is one option. The other option is sometimes, and especially in industries, a lot of times they put out a posting and they might not hire for that position until like 6 months. I remember I had applied for some positions in US sometime in February, and I think last month or something I got an email from them saying that the processing is done and you have not been selected. So there are a lot of things inside of the company, and it varies from one company to the other. So there are a lot of things behind the listing that you see, right? So the listing only mentions what what the expected qualifications are, what is the task descriptions that are going to be. I'm saying it's better to start earlier, so because we don't know what is the dynamics behind the listing itself.
I think
Well,
it could be
Murli, just
helpful. Yeah, Nishant, I was just going to say that it might be helpful if you talked about your kind of job experience. And you might have had a little bit more traditional route as a MS student and when you started and that sort of thing.
Right. And that is what I wanted to add to Murli's point, that when I was going through my job search, my observation was that typically when you apply for a job and by the time you have the offer letter in your hand, if you're looking for a full-time job directly with an employer, which is not through a consultant, then it usually takes around a month and a half to 2 months. Now, if you're going through a consultant, they work in a very dynamic environment. So, from them, you can expect the results much more quicker. So I think you can throw that in your planning when you're, planning your job search that, all right, am I going to go with consultants or am I going to target a company who can directly hire me? Because a direct hire is always better in comparison to a consultant, especially in the times we are living in right now, because that way your H1B sponsorship comes under less amount of scrutiny in comparison to, in case your H1B sponsorship was done through a consultancy. Now, there are just a few things that I wanted to talk about out of my own experience, during the job search. Really, right now I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have a full-time job. I'm enjoying every bit of it in the sunny South, but, things weren't as exciting and pleasant about a year and a month ago from today. I was in my post-completion OPT, and I'd already used up nearly 47 days of the 90 days, the 90 unemployment days that are typically allowed. I'd given many interviews, but most of them did not culminate into a full-time offer. Out of approximately 45 interviews that I gave, 40 ended, when I answered yes, that I do need sponsorship. So my suggestion to this kind of an situation is that this is something which is unavoidable, and it's a given with many American companies that, in case you need sponsorship, many are going to say no to you. So my suggestion is that, you need to be resolute and you need to be patient during your job search. I think patience is a virtue which will be really helpful during this nerve-wracking process. Now, the other lesson that I learned during my job search was that, you need to break certain inhibitions that you might have while you're searching for a job here in the U.S. And these inhibitions typically, arise out of your own experiences in the past, in case you have had any past job experience, or from the cultural background you're coming from. I had one such inhibition, and that was that, I could not muster the courage of writing a cold email to someone I did not know to seek a job for which I thought I was a really good fit. Because my experience, I'm from India, and my experience while working in India was that we never indulged in any kind of cold emailing or cold calling for that matter. Worked for a little time in Germany as well, and there again, the culture is not of cold calling or cold emailing. So that was one avenue which was unexplored for me, and therefore I was always hesitant in using that over here in America. But believe me or not, the present job that I got today is because of a cold email that I wrote to my hiring manager and the CEO of the company. And from what I have learned from other people from my batch or from my class, they have done similar things and it has worked for them. So cold emailing is something that can be a game changer. Just make sure that whenever you are doing that, the profile that you're applying to is very relevant to your job experience, in case you have had any job experience in the past, or to the focus area that you have at university.
More questions?
I did wanted to say that if you're looking for a job with higher education, jobs are being now promoted, assistant professor lecturers, to start for August of next year. So that process started now. So if you know that you want to work in higher ed, start looking for those job positions now.
I saw a question in the back of the room.
I have a question. So, Nishan, thank you for being here. And I have a question. So, what do you mean by cold emailing? Like asking CEO for the job recommendation, or can you explain more on that?
How did you decide?
Sure, I can.
How did you decide who to email your cold email to, Nishan?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that last part?
How did you decide who to send your cold email to?
Right. Right. So what happens is that, let's say there is a position. Let's say I'm talking about the position that I'm working in at the moment at Linde Engineering. So I heard about this position. I saw this position online, and then I kind of started to figure out using LinkedIn and Google primarily as to who could be the hiring manager. So I'm an engineering manager within the project execution department here at Linde Engineering. So I knew that for the head of project execution would be the guy who would be the hiring manager for this role. And I knew that I had the skills, I had the prior experience to be a good fit for this role. So my resume was made like that, and the courses that I took at Michigan Tech, kind of supplemented my job experience. So I just figured it out. I was on LinkedIn and I was just trying to look up for the head of project execution based on the location, where the position was based, and I found out a name. And, most of the times you can kind of guess the email IDs, like, it's usually the first name, last name, and then at, whatever the company's URL is. So you just write an email, and then you can add them on LinkedIn, and you can write them a message as well. And this is a method that I got to know about from, the articles that I read online about job search here in the U.S. I used to do that a lot during my job search phase, so that I understood that what are the new ways in which I can look for a job. Because if you keep on applying online, think about it. There are like thousands of people applying online. What are your chances of getting a job if you apply online? So you need to do something extra. And that extra is that, you directly contact the guy. It might, sound a little like intrusive, but I don't think it is. A lot of people don't think it is. I think people think that you want to be a part of the organization, you have the skills, and you approach the guy. It's just like, a small elevator pitch that you're going to do in case you met, your hiring manager or the CEO of a company in the elevator. So it's just like that. And I got that idea. So I just wrote to my manager saying, hey, I've got this kind of experience. I've, a master's degree from Michigan Tech with this and this GPA, and I really want to be a part of your organization. If you can look at my resume, then that would be great. And then I heard back like 3 weeks or 4 weeks after I had written that email. I did not get an immediate response back. So that's something, it did take some time, but I did get a response. And after that, like, it took further 2 or 3 weeks to like schedule the first interview. And then it took further 2 more weeks for me to get an offer letter, and then further 2 weeks for me to join the company. So, if it's, had I not been an international student, maybe things would have been a little easier because, they had to take a lot of approvals for the H1B sponsorship and stuff like that. That's always associated with an international student. But I think if you have the skills, if you have the right education, if your skill set, if your knowledge is relevant to the profile, then people will give you a chance. I hope that answered your question and give you a little bit of idea as to what needs to be done when I talk, what it means when I talk about cold emailing.
Yes, of course, yeah. Thanks, Nishan.
So how did location play into your search for potential companies? So one of you all said you were working in Germany and Austria, and the other at Atlanta. So did you start off just with like a broad perspective and just looked at interesting companies, or was it more like a focused approach of saying, hey, so the industry relevant to my background is in this area, and we should be focusing more on companies and organizations that are in this region?
So Murli, would you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'd let you go first, and then I'll
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Fine, okay, I'll go first. I would say this is kind of all over the place, because as far as an international student, I've never considered myself to be restricted in any one location. In some sense, if I was to work in US, I wouldn't have said that I wanted to be in Michigan or Midwest. Whereas this is more of a choice for people who have a home in the US. So they want to they want to be close to home or away from home or whatever. Location was never a criteria for me. But one thing I would advise is if uh, you have a reliable address that you could use while you're sending an application. Um, let's say you're in Michigan and you want to send an application to a position in California. It is sometimes, not always, okay to give an address that you might have. Let's say you have a brother who's working in California. You can give his address, and if when they talk to you, you can, I don't know, you can figure out something on how to travel there. Um, but this is a personal choice. I would not say that this should be done, because if you're applying to a company, uh, they might say, oh, you're in Michigan, that's fine, we'll pay for your expenses, so it's a personal choice thing. But otherwise, it is a fact that sometimes companies prefer candidates who are easier to bring for on-site interviews. So you kind of have to figure that out with them. And sometimes, like Nishant said, if you are in contact with someone who's not just a recruiter, but if you are in contact with someone higher, then they might, like a hiring manager, might push for the candidate to be brought for an interview, and then it doesn't matter where you're located. I hope that was kind of the question that was put forward. Is that right?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Yeah, and
All right.
Nishant,
So yeah, I mean, one caveat that I would put to that cold emailing thing is the fact that make sure you don't recklessly write cold emails. I mean, make sure that when you're writing a cold email for a position, it's very relevant to your job profile, or to your past experience, or to your projects that you have done at your university. Like if you're gonna, let's say, you're gonna, in my case, if I was to apply for a chemical engineering position, being a mechanical engineer, even though the experience might be in the same field, it just won't work. So don't even try that. I mean, you might hurt your chances that way. As far as the location part of it is concerned, I would suggest that that really plays a good amount of role into what kind of opportunities you get. What I have heard and what I have seen is that a lot of consultancies, who hire people, they typically do a search for candidates by the area code. So let's say if on your resume, or if on your online profile, you have specified an address that has got an area code, which is very near to the area code at which the location is based, the chances are that you might get more calls. If they reach the point of fruition or not, you just cannot say. I mean, that just depends on your interview, but at least you will start getting the calls. And as you get calls, your experience would start to build up, and you would gain more experience in interviewing. One thing which I personally did was that I had a relative who was staying in Houston. So I took their address and I said, hey, can I have your address? And can I mention that on my resume? Because, if I put that up on my, job profile, on any online profile, there are chances that I might get calls from Houston. The reason why I targeted Houston is because I had previous experience in oil and gas, and Houston in America is like the hub of all the oil and gas businesses. A lot of people go to Detroit. They shift base to Detroit after their graduation because Michigan in general is known for the automotive industry. So a lot of automotive industries, tier 1, tier 2 suppliers in that area. So they go there and they get a job. So I do believe that location plays a very important role. If you're talking about automation, if you're talking about autonomous vehicles, if you're talking about electric vehicles, then California is the place to be in. Talking about oil and gas, then it's Texas or it's Oklahoma, it's Kansas City. So you need to be a little aware of where the industries are. I'm not saying that this means that you will not get a call from anywhere else, but it's more about it's more about the probability that where you're going to get a call from. I hope that answered your question. If you have any clarifications, feel free.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
We have another question, actually.
Yeah. So I get a lot of calls from consultancies stating that they have some job requirements and all that, and they say that we will do placement and H1B sponsorship for you, but they say that we will have initial training and it will cost you this dollars. So I want to ask, is it a scam or should I go for that?
It's a scam. If they want your money, it's a scam. Yeah, you shouldn't be paying for that either.
So it sometimes it is most probably a scam. Someone in the room had it.
Well, Murli, I think it certainly is a scam. I wouldn't even put the word probable there.
Because there could be. I hope no one in this room or no one in Michigan Tech ever has to go through this. But I've had friends who have had to go through situations where their OPT status or their job status was really harsh, and there was no way they could find a position within the given timeline for them to stay in the country. And in such situations, obviously they are preying on people like that. If you are desperate to stay in the country and you'll find a job once the job market changes, then you would try to go for something like that. And if you have the money for it, it's like, yeah, you can pay and stay for longer so that you can find another job. But I would never recommend going for this. I never recommended my friend who I'm talking about here to do this either. It is most probably a scam, but they'll probably give you some way to stay in the country for some more time. It's just a means of buying time.
But yeah, Murli, to be honest, in my opinion, I would never endorse this kind of an arrangement. So
don't get me wrong.
From my end,
yeah. No, don't panic if you go through this situation. You have to be very careful how you approach it. So it's just one of the situations that you might face. But if you're in college and you get this call, you're in no hurry to go through the situation where paying some money for them to give you a job. So never go for that when you're in college. But like I said, the purpose some of these people exist is for preying on some people. So be very careful. I should say you should never deal with such people. So I hope my message didn't go in the wrong direction. What Nishant said is correct, that like you should never go into these things. But I was just trying to reason out why some of these companies exist. I'm interested to know if there are any PhD students in the room who might have questions about I don't know, certain job in the industry or academia.
Could you guys raise your hands if you're in PhD program?
Oh, that's great to see. So many people in the room who are in the PhD program.
So do no PhD students have any questions for Murli?
Uh, yeah, I have just one. I want to know how it is getting a job as a PhD graduate. I've read a lot about challenges getting job in the industry as a PhD graduate. You know, and then perhaps you might have to resolve into the academia, you know, just being the academia, since you are too qualified in quotes now. So I want to ask if you've got something to say about that. Easy getting job as a PhD.
So there is some fear that as a PhD student it is hard to find a job, which is absolutely wrong. I think it is. It feels it is harder to find a job because there are a lot more opportunities that you might feel you fit into, but you don't know what exactly the employer wants. So you know instead of applying for 50 positions, you might end up applying for 100 positions, and you'd still get only like 5 or 10 calls. So as a PhD student, finding a job in the industry or academia is not difficult as long as you, like I said, the reason why initially I said that you need to give a 1 year time is maybe more applicable to PhD students, because then you get more time to discuss with different people and figure out what you want to do. As far as the visa considerations like OPT and H1B, one thing is that if you are in the academia, then it is really hard for you to go into the industry. So if you get an academic H1, I would say hardly 1% of the employers from the industry would want to hire you. Mainly this is because of the timeline of how H1B works. So the academic H1 is different from the industrial H1. So let's call it this way, right? The academic H1 you can apply at any time around the year, and it's only between your employer and USCIS or whatever organization is processing your application. So you basically can apply anytime around the year, and it takes whatever number of months for the processing to happen. Whereas industrial H1 is applied every April, if I'm not wrong, and this process happens only one time a year. So every April they apply, and then they get the results starting from July, and then I think the approval comes around October or something. So if you are already in an academic H1, then an industrial company will not be ready to apply for your for your industrial H1 in April and hire you and wait for 4 or 5 months for the approval to come. So this process from academia to industry is really hard. But if you already have an industrial H1, it is easier if you want to go back to academia. So this is the logistics of H1 as far as academia and industry are concerned. Did I answer your question, or was there any follow up on that?
Yeah, it was good learning that, but it was more specific on getting a job as a PhD graduate in the industry, not really comparing or trying to look at transiting from academia H1 to industrial H1.
Okay. Yeah, getting a job in the industry, I won't say it is easy, but I won't say it is impossible. It is somewhere in between. It is. I mean, you have to explore all your options, and options like networking through conferences, networking through LinkedIn. These are I would think these are two key areas that any PhD student should explore. Because as a student, you have a lot more access to attending conferences, especially because you can get professional memberships maybe for free or for very cheap prices. And then at conferences, you might meet industrial research groups uh, that are presenting their research, and then it's basically like you can go and talk to anyone you want when you're at the conference, and if they like what you're doing, they'll be ready to discuss with maybe their managers to see if there are openings. So attending conferences is definitely an option. And as a student, you have resources like the GST travel grant, or there is another resource which is called the Grant Forward. Maybe I'll send some information about this to Jacob, and he can share with the attendees. This also gives you information about what kind of funding you can find outside of the university to attend certain conferences, things like that.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I think we'll take that as our last question for the seminar then. We're hitting 4:55, which I would say is tech time, 5 o'clock. We go by our class schedules for everything. So just wanted to say thank you again to Nishant and Murli for joining us from afar. Congratulations on your success. We hope you continue to do well and great things, and for spending some time with us today. Also thank you to Stacy and Madeline, who I think Madeline might have a couple minutes if you have an additional question specifically for her. If you need contact information for anybody today, feel free to come and talk with me after the meeting. But thanks for being here today, and hopefully you enjoyed our seminar and our workshop. So thank you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Nice to hear you, Nishant.
Thank you.